2.1 Genre, Literacy Narrative. Literacy and narrative. When individuals compose a literacy narrative, they often recall how they learned to read and write, describe a memorable event involving their literacy acquisition or exploration, or consider how reading and writing continue to play roles in their lives. In general, a literacy narrative is a narrative that connects events and personal experiences related to literacy to an individual's personal development. Just like there are various understandings of what defines literacy, there are various understandings of the literacy narrative as a genre. In the same way that thinking about our thinking distinguishes us from trout, thinking about our learning and reading and writing allows us to achieve levels of consciousness and awareness that can inform how we see the world and who we become within the world we construct for ourselves. A number of well-known thinkers have shared their experiences with literacy and language. Thinking about literacy and language can expand to include sharing experiences with reading and learning and writing. You don't have to be famous, however, to have experiences worth considering and sharing. The Digital Archive of Literacy Narratives is a public space where anyone can upload a literacy narrative and read the literacy narratives of others. Cynthia L. Self, professor emerita at The Ohio State University and co-founder of the DALN, defines a literacy narrative as a personal account of any event involving reading or composing. Self discusses literacy narratives in What is a Literacy Narrative and The Power of Literacy Narratives. Watching these videos will help you understand Self's definition of literacy and her ideas on literacy narratives as a genre. See question 1 below. For your literacy narrative, you will discuss your relationship with literacy and describe the impact specific texts and experiences have had on you. To do so, connect literacy events and look for a thread that ties the experiences together and to an outcome. The outcome will be the impact the experiences with literacy had on you. Literacy. Literacy in general signifies being competent in an area or demonstrating a basic proficiency with a skill. More specific and standard definitions of literacy focus on reading books and writing text, but concepts of literacy have expanded to include critical literacy, digital literacy, visual literacy, technological literacy, and emerging literacies. Our use of literacy is intended to focus on any connections or communications you make to, with, or through reading or writing or related texts. While reading can extend to reading music or images or any text, when we deconstruct the concept too much, it can be difficult to narrow specific literacy events for your narrative. In this course, we view literacy as a form of identity. We are shaped by words, and we shape our world with words. Language, therefore, is part of our identity. We will also recognize that literacy is a social practice and cannot be separated from audience and ecology. When we understand this, we realize that when we write, we are bringing our experiences to the way we communicate. We also realize that our writing is intended to communicate with a specific audience, and that the audience impacts our construction and communication. Further, we also play the role of audience and interpret the meanings and impact of the words we encounter and engage. Finally, we accept that we are constructed through language. What we think and see and say, and how we think and see and say, all move through the mirror and filter of words. In all, this means that reading and writing cannot be divorced from the reader and the writer, and the broad context that constructs the communication. As a result, the experiences you have had with literacy throughout your life have impacted you. Identifying key events and outcomes and connecting them to who you have become and are becoming is the main goal of the literacy narrative. These expanded literacies are built upon the traditional literacy of reading and writing. We read an image, and we read code, and we read clues and context by building on the competencies developed by reading words. Similarly, we write code and copy and content and text and context by building on the skills developed by writing. Looking at our interactions with literacy also includes considering the learning process that moved us from building blocks to USF, which includes the formal learning, reading, and writing that occurred in schools and the informal interactions that occurred in our personal lives and exchanges. In the same way that traditional notions of literacy conjure images of books and pens or online books and laptops, university-level writing, in composition courses and beyond, often conjures the idea of a research paper or essay. And much of university-level writing does take that form. But just as you will be expected to learn in increasingly digital spaces, the communication you create will likely follow a similar trajectory. Many of the literacy narratives in the Digital Archive of Literacy Narratives are in visual or video format. In order to expand into these and other spaces, our goal is to start specific and practice honing and developing the standard skills that will facilitate success with advancing in advanced literacy at USF and beyond. To explore the variety of forms a literacy narrative can take, use search narratives on the DALN to look for subjects or texts and read or watch a few of the uploaded narratives. Question 2. Narrative thread. In your literacy narrative, you will be expected to organize your narrative around an overarching theme or thesis that connects the literacy events to a meaningful outcome or statement. Once you have established the takeaway or moral of your story, you will narrate the role that literacy has played in your life and describe the literacy-related events or experiences that have impacted you. In addition to telling a good story, the main goal is to reflect upon your personal experience in a way that demonstrates your ability to make meaning of the narrative and exposition you have provided. Not only will doing so allow you to practice many of the skills required for success in university-level research and writing, the process will also allow you to examine your personal relationship with reading and writing in a formal and informal capacity as you prepare to launch into your academic coursework and beyond. The process of becoming a better writer benefits from self-exploration and an examination of the elements that have made you the reader and writer you are today. These experiences impact your interactions with formal and informal reading and writing. While the two overlap, many students share different experiences with and express different opinions of formal reading and writing as part of a requirement related to their formal education in comparison to the experiences and opinions they share in relation to reading and writing that occurs in informal ways, such as those related to reading for fun or writing to communicate with friends and family. Thinking of literacy events that include formal and informal experiences with learning and the associated literacies can help you see if patterns demonstrate connections and spaces of disconnection with your experiences and opinions of reading and writing. Question 3. Narrating our lives through the lens of literacy also allows us to see that, not unlike writing, living is a process. In How to Narrate Your Life Story, we learn that no one gets anywhere important in one go. We can forgive ourselves the horrors of our first drafts. But having a first draft to forgive requires us to pause and reflect on the life we are writing and the stories we are telling about our past, present, and future so that we can make choices about the stories that will fill the next draft. Impacts and outcomes. Looking for and at the connections across experiences with literacy is the first step in constructing a successful literacy narrative. The next step is to connect those connections to the impact they had in your life. Writing a literacy narrative requires contemplation, which means a necessary step in beginning this assignment will be to allow yourself to sit quietly and reflect on your life and experiences. You can make notes or talk into a recording device if you'd like. One session of reflection is unlikely to be enough, so plan to give yourself a few opportunities with some time to think. You can tell a friend or talk to a family member if conversation helps you spark memories. but at least some of your time should be spent in silence alone. Allowing your mind to quiet without distracting thoughts of what is due or what to do can be difficult, but it is an important practice to practice. Having a personal plan that includes time to think as part of your overall outline will allow you to trust that you won't get off track or lost in your deep thoughts. Because you have previewed the assignment in depth, you know that the tasks work together to build to the final submission, and that they include assignments that help you focus your thoughts in relation to the literacy narrative and allow you to receive formative feedback from your instructor on a regular basis. You won't actually start to outline your narrative until next week. But like all major assignments and writing tasks, you should start by making sure you understand the related concepts. Supplemental readings, what is a narrative essay, and writing a literacy narrative. Assignment 2.1. After reading this overview of the genre, watch What is a Literacy Narrative and The Power of Literacy Narratives and explore the DALN. Then develop complete sentences to answer the following questions. Because these questions require you to think critically and conceptually, be sure to give yourself time to develop strong and complete responses. Submit your considered and polished responses to Assignment 2.1 in Canvas. 1. How are the concepts of literacy and the expectations of a literacy narrative as explained in the assignment similar to and different from self's expectations of each? 2. Link 2 narratives you explored in the DALN and discuss what each did well. And 3. Identify and list 4 literacy memories. 2 formal, related to reading and writing in a formal educational setting, and 2 informal, related to reading or writing for a personal purpose. How do they overlap, and how are they different?